Barlovento district to determine how closely they resemble a model cooperative. Next, Ananda Margiis comes from Australia to Venezuela to make a documentary for television, Another Life is Possible, Cooperatives in Barlovento, Venezuela. It shows the successes, the problems, and PROUT's recommendations how to empower cooperatives. This. Good. Next, we started a fundraising campaign to get the permanent use of this $230,000 three-story beautiful house in Caracas as a permanent office for the Institute. It has living quarters for staff, dormitories for guests and students, lush gardens. We hosted and trained 21 Brazilian university students and their professor for 6 weeks of daily yoga classes, meditation, PROUT classes, and studying the cooperatives and the reality of Venezuela. One of our strengths is a model of PROUT in practice. Central Madre, directed by Ananda Sadhana for the last 10 years, is 2 hours from Caracas. The Agricultural Institute of the government, CIADA, recently inspected this project for the second time a week ago, and again rated as excellent. A national model of small-scale sustainable agriculture. Very impressive to show people. Each week, they bring groups to see and learn from this Master Unit enterprise, at least one a week.
The message of transformation is fundamental to virtually all religions and spiritual paths. P.R. Sarkar said we should regard prisoners with benevolent and humanistic sentiments. Criminals can be cured quite quickly through spiritual practices, and in a slightly longer period through yogic methods. In July last year, the Venezuela PROUT Institute started teaching yoga classes in Yari Uno, the prison in which Hugo Chavez had been incarcerated, about 2 hours traveling from Caracas.
New academics with experienced published academics. So when I identify a prominent, I'm an economist, so if I identify a prominent economics magazine, look through it, find someone who has published in there several times, and then approach them with an abstract for a project paper. They agree to co-author this paper with me, then my paper has a much higher chance of being published. And this is important also because as we're writing these papers and we're listing other PROUTists in our citations, we're adding into Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is one of the ways that a lot of new academics find these new ideas. So there's other things you can do, blogs or press releases, your art, but having PROUT become part of what's known to policymakers is very useful.
The Central Madre, the Master Unit there. We've had the chance to really come to understand what have been these deep-seated historical experiences and the legacies they've left. The area is 90% Afro-Venezuelan, so we see a lot of discrimination, racism, and the collective trauma suffered during the slave trade. And all this comes together, leading to certain social characteristics that still very much affect the society and really challenge the implementation of PROUT. So we see a distrust of outsiders, of foreigners, a lack of initiative and self-esteem and motivation. Self-esteem is debilitating to individual and group capacity, and a lack of unity and willingness to cooperate. In a recent initiative, we were trying to organize local agricultural producers, and myself and another girl born and raised in that area went around trying to unite community leaders for a meeting to get some feedback on our initial plan, and nobody attended. You know, obviously from the last speaker, it takes months. He had 12 professional PROUTists working to get these people together, so it does take a long time. And also in that same initiative, 2 villages less than a kilometer away, 200 people each, very small communities, neighbors, showed distrust, apathy, and suspicion of one another. So trying to unite is very difficult. And this speaks simultaneously to the particularities of that society, but also to the challenges you're going to face anywhere in the world, building partnerships, building trust. This is universal. All grassroots development of this sort takes the time, patience, sensitivity, and understanding. Spiritual character of PROUT, is challenging as well because people think, oh, you must be a dogmatic religious group. Or in the orange uniform leads people to question, leads people to be suspicious at times of our director Dada. And also there's a tendency in Venezuela and the world to equate anything with remotely socialist ideals with experiences of the past or current ones in the present. So they kind of look at PROUT and may say, I'm talking about extreme cases here, obviously. But you're just Cuba-loving, Castro-loving communists. Happens. So the opposition can label us as Chavista. Very real. What makes PROUT so hard to implement? And what is it about the society that resists this type of change? This vibration of change. To me, the critical disharmony lies in the lack of consciousness that is rooted in a particular experience with capitalism. And isn't that it? Isn't that the crux of all of our issues, no matter where we're working? We have the history, the legacy of colonialism dealing with that. Added on top of that, neocolonialism and current economic exploitation. That's it, right? So it's a consciousness thing, rooted in those two things for me. And it expresses itself differently, of course, but getting to the root of that really gives you the understanding to help you move forward. The legacy of oil, like I said, coming at the expense of everything else, makes it hard for them to conceive of alternative development models, because it's always just been oil. Global capitalism doesn't want it to end, so neither do they. So on an unconscious level, they're thinking, not only is it okay, but it's unproblematic. It's like a national destiny. Well, this is what we've been given oil. So
Es importante que cada ser humano necesita ser líder de su propia vida.
It's important that a human being become the leader of their own life.
Que por derecho universal podemos equivocarnos
It's the human right to make mistakes.
y que contamos también con las herramientas necesarias para corregir nuestros errores.
And have the tools necessary to correct those mistakes.
Somos co-creadores de esta realidad
We are co-creators of this reality.
y por lo tanto nos toca pensar cuál es la realidad que queremos vivir.
And so we must think deeply, what is the progressive way to go?
Hay que reaprender a sumarnos a otros
We must relearn how to get others to join us and
y
to
sumarnos a otros.
join with others.
La primera revolución es la revolución de la conciencia.
And we must understand that the first revolution is the revolution of consciousness.
Y la visión de PROUT
The vision of PROUT
ofrece una alternativa
offers an alternative
capaz no solo de transformar,
capable not only of transforming
y de generar felicidad interna bruta
and to generate gross domestic happiness
a todos los venezolanos,
for to all Venezuelans,
sino también la oportunidad de construir
but it's also an opportunity to build
una sociedad humana y universal.
a society that is humanist and universal.
El sistema